What it do? What it do? What it do? All right. So today's going to be maybe a more polarizing conversation. But I think that it's something important. We touched on a topic the other day. We discussed, so the other day we discussed sexuality a little bit. We really tried to talk about how the church plays a role in the castration of men, the hypothetical or the metaphorical castration of men. So what we tried to dive into was male sexuality, and then also the calling for sexual discipline. When we hear about the term sexual discipline, typically the conversation only goes as far as to say, just don't have sex. Men should keep it in their pants, right? And so today we're going to go into a little bit more depth, and I'm going to use a reading from David Data's The Way of the Superior Man. Good morning, good morning. All right, I'm going to use a reading from The Way of the Superior Man. I'm going to go through a specific chapter in it, and then I'm going to jump into this conversation. So the name of today's lecture is The Dark Truth About the Masculine Desire for Multiple Women. Right? What do you do with this sexual energy? It's one thing to just say, well, keep it in your pants. Right? But as a man, if you're walking through life and you have all this testosterone, you have this divine masculine energy, how do you direct your energy so that you're not spilling it, or so you don't end up in compromising situations? We can look out in the world and see all kinds of sexual scandals. We even look at the church, the main pushers of the keep it in your pants agenda, right? And there's sexual scandals going on there. So we're taught and we're told that we need to walk the route of sexual discipline. However, no one is actually telling us how to transmute that energy, how to work with that sexual energy that's extremely potent in men, right? So this is what we're going to talk about today. So first we're going to read this chapter. It's only about 4 paragraphs long. It's David Data's The Way of the Superior Man, and then we'll get into the topic at hand. All right, so this chapter is called You Will Often Want More Than One Woman. Right? Any man with a masculine sexual essence, because every man doesn't have a masculine sexual essence, just like every woman doesn't have a feminine sexual essence. But any man with a masculine sexual essence will desire sexual variety. Even if he loves his intimate partner and is completely committed to her, he will naturally want sexual occasions with other women besides his chosen intimate partner. How a man deals with his desire for other women is up to him. He should know, however, that there is no way to avoid such desires. He should also know that acting on such desires, though temporarily enlivening and exhilarating, often ends up complicating his life far more than the occasion itself is worth. Even if you're totally committed to your intimate partner in love, you probably think about having sex with other women. Even if you are totally fulfilled by the sex you share with your woman, you probably still desire it with other women. Your desire for other women is not a reflection of any lack in your intimacy. It is a reflection of your nature as a masculine sexual being. But this desire is not an excuse for promiscuity, any more than your enjoyment of TV is an excuse for becoming an obese couch potato. Desire springs from many sources, such as your addictions, your biological heritage, your childhood conditioning, and your open heart. To live a life of impeccable integrity, you must discriminate the source of your desire so you know when to discipline your behavior for everyone's benefit, including yours. Okay? The fact is you probably want to have sex with other women besides your intimate partner. How you respond to this fact is a reflection of your purpose in life. If your purpose is to enjoy physical pleasure no matter the consequences, then you should screw as many women as you want. If your purpose is to be a nice boy and please mommy, then you should do what makes your woman happy. If your purpose is to liberate yourself and others into love and freedom, then you should do whatever magnifies the love and freedom in your life and in the lives of those whom your actions affect. It is your call. Just remember that self-discipline is not self-suppression. Suppression is when you resist and fight against your desires, keeping them as buried and unexpressed as possible. Self-discipline is when your highest desires rule your lesser desires, okay? Not through resistance, but through loving action grounded in understanding and compassion. Okay? How many women you have sex with is your business. Before you consider more than one, however, it is best to prove your capacity with one. If you can't handle one, if deep communion, rejuvenating passion, and spiritual happiness are not the main features of your present intimacy, then you have not passed the test. And it is best to discipline your desire for other partners, since nobody is likely to be served. Right? Very interesting. Okay. So let's really talk about this. Let's break this down, because this goes down the rabbit hole. He says it in a very concise and eloquent way, but this can lead us down the rabbit hole. When we talk about sexual discipline, as a man, you have to understand what your highest calling in life is. You cannot suppress or eliminate some of the desires of your lower nature, but you can rise above them. This is one of the challenges that we have in life as men, as we're going to have lower desires. Everyone has this desire to eat shitty food. You will have a desire to be with a lot of women. Now, if that is the desire that you want to pursue, and you believe that serves your highest calling in life, then you should pursue it. If not, then you have to find things that are above that calling for you to pursue. So let's break this down in a completely different way. So your desire for other women is not an obstacle to your spiritual path. It is a vehicle for it. The problem I have with a lot of conversations about sexual discipline is that we don't talk about transmutation enough. We do not talk about how potent of an energy this is in men enough. And when we even get to a point where some of these conversations are being led by women, there's no way that a woman could understand the sexual nature of a man, because she's not a man. The same way that I cannot understand a woman having a cycle. I cannot understand giving birth to a child. I might be able to conceptually understand it, right? Understand it through textbook reading, but I've never experienced it, right? So when we look at these institutions that are pushing, sexual discipline, mainly the church, right? Well, how is the church actually teaching you to handle that sexual energy? Are they telling you to put it in other things? Are they just saying that you should pray it away? That God will heal you and pray away your sexual desire, right? What if there's a deeper reason that you have this sexual desire, right? Your desire to please the feminine, your desire to seek the feminine, right? This is what the ancients called the muse, this concept of this divine feminine, right? This beautiful woman who is the inspiration to men, right? We can use this as a metaphor, or you can use it as, in real life. When you get this divine woman in your life, this woman that you truly love, all of a sudden you have more ambition. All of a sudden you have more motivation. So we're always looking for this ideal woman in life. We're always doing things as men to build ourselves up to seek this ideal woman. This is why men build skyscrapers. If there were no women in this earth, if there was no feminine energy, who would you be as a man? Right? Would we have these high rises? Would we have these fancy restaurants? Or would we all just be ungroomed, sitting around on the corners all day together, playing dice and drinking beers? Right? How would your life change if it was not for feminine energy? So surely this sexual drive in you that pushes you to accomplish greater things because you are pursuing women, surely there is a reason for this. It is your divine nature. So anything that is in your divine nature is not to be suppressed. You learn how to work with it. You need to understand how this can shape your life in a positive way. All right. So men are often taught to suppress or feel ashamed of their sexual desires, especially the urge to be with more than one woman. But what if that urge isn't a weakness? What if it is a window into your deepest masculine essence, your yearning for freedom and your potential for spiritual mastery? Okay. So your desire to be with a lot of women, there are subconscious reasons that you have this. It's not always about physical intimacy. Part of it is your desire for freedom, because feminine energy is free. It's flowing. When you think of anything that's free and flowing, it is feminine energy. One of your desires as a man is to build a legacy, to build a life for yourself so beautiful that it grants you freedom. You go through the grind to get to freedom on the other side. Feminine energy represents this freedom. Okay. So a part of the polarity that you have in you being a man that is led by masculine energy, if you are a man who is led by masculine energy, most men are, right? Then you have a desire to pursue feminine energy. And feminine energy is synonymous with freedom, the same way that feminine energy is synonymous with money. That's why women love to get your money, right? Because it's feminine energy, okay? There's also a spiritual mastery component of it. When we think of spiritual mastery, we think more of feminine energy, right? This is why you have to step into more feminine energy when you first go down the spiritual path, right? Now, some men do get stuck on the feminine side of the spiritual path, and they forget that there's also another polarity, which is the warrior part of spirituality. Your ancestors weren't just sitting around meditating, they were conquering too. So there's still a masculine essence to it, but part of your desire to conquer multiple women, to be with multiple women, the sexual desire is linked to your desire for freedom, your desire for spiritual mastery. And this is why even when you embark on certain sexual discipline journeys, even on accident, or you don't release for a while, you might accidentally go through a little drought and practice semen retention for a little bit of time, right? What happens is that naturally men all of a sudden start looking towards the spiritual path. Most do, especially masculine led men, because going down the sexual discipline part and cultivating that sexual energy within you, right, it starts to lead you down spiritual paths. All of a sudden you want to start meditating more and doing more things and getting in nature and grounding. There's this natural spiritual essence to it. We also have to understand that your desire to be with multiple women also isn't truly playing out, doesn't necessarily have to play out with multiple women. Meaning, you have an innate, natural desire as a man to conquer, all right? And part of the things that you want to conquer in life, you want to conquer your purpose. You want to conquer your life. You want to feel like the king in your life. You also have a desire to conquer your woman, to penetrate your woman in all ways, emotionally, penetrate the hell out of her, spiritually, penetrate the hell out of her, sexually, penetrate the hell out of her, right? And so the more and the deeper that you can penetrate your woman, you can unlock different parts of her, more feminine parts of her. This is even why you know this subconsciously. If you do not pipe your woman down properly, if she's not getting the grade A vibranium pipe from you, you deny yourself of a certain level of submission from her. Right? If you're not open enough to have these conversations, right? If you're not open enough to have the conversations about what your woman likes, what freaky things she likes, there's going to be a certain level of submission that you don't unlock from her. The same way, if she's not open enough to have those conversations with you about what you like, you'll never fully feel truly fulfilled, right? And sure, we can talk about divinely awakened masculine. It's just about men in general, right? Because we do have to understand the feminine, especially as we walk down this journey, whether you feel like you are in that divine masculine space or if you feel like you're walking towards it, right? But we're going to talk about all those things. We're going to talk about spiritual mastery. We're going to talk about your desire to penetrate your woman fully, right? Because a lot of times it's not that you want a bunch of women, you want deep connection. And how this plays out is that you might have multiple women, and this woman gives you this woman gives you that, this woman gives you this. But you really want to open a woman up to be able to provide all those things to you. It's just difficult to do this if you aren't extremely skilled, right? Because women are complex. They're much more complex than us when it comes to how we interact on a love basis, all right? So this lecture explores how to understand, confront, and elevate that desire, not through shame or indulgence, but through conscious transmutation. And yeah, of course, so the document is going to be on YouTube. It's always on YouTube. But I'm just streaming to everything, okay? So the raw truth, desire is natural. All right, so it is your fear of death combined with your desire for full life that drives you to seek the constant embrace of the feminine. Men often feel this persistent pull to experience the new, the unknown, the wild. And this often expresses itself as sexual desire for multiple women. Data says this isn't a sign of immaturity. It is the masculine trying to embrace all of life. You do not feel the fullness of yourself. You don't truly feel as if you're walking in your divine. unless you are conquering life. And part of conquering life means living in your edge, living on the edge, right? Pushing your boundaries, doing things that might be a little bit unsafe, right? For the great reward of conquering your life further, taking risks in your life, maybe taking financial risks to actually pull in prosperity, right? Learning new skills, doing things that are different. These are all, or doing things that are difficult. These are all part of your masculine desire. How a lot of these things outpicture is your desire to be with multiple women. A lot of these things are linked, right? A lot of these things are linked. So you can think of on the scale, and there's a scientific study about this. I should have linked it in here. But there's a scientific study that actually talks about how the different genders correlate specific things to sex. So for men, what you tie sex to, what's the closest thing in your mind that you tie sex to, right, is going to be dominance. Okay? The same way that you attack the world, the same way that you penetrate the world is the same way that you want to penetrate women. The same way that you have a lot of ambition is the same way that you're going to have a lot of desire, sexual desire. So your ambition is going to be highly linked with your sexual drive. Men with high ambition, what Napoleon Hill called a well-sexed man, right, are typically more ambitious man. A well-sexed man, meaning just a man with a higher sexual appetite. Doesn't mean a man that's having more sex, because that energy can be utilized in whatever way you direct it. You can direct it to be a man that conquers a lot of women, or you could direct it to be a man that conquers life. Or you could, slide up and down the polarity scale depending on what season of your life you're in. But we'll also see a direct correlation between how sexed you are, how frequently you are busting, and then also your spiritual and your intellectual sharpness, where there's typically a trade-off. The more sexually disciplined you are, you can lean into more sharpness of mind, sharpness of spirituality. The less sexual disciplined you are, you can lean into a less sharp nature when it comes to your spirituality, when it comes to intellect, your intellect. Now, argue with it all you want, right? You can debate about that all you want, but truly look out in the world and see. Read some biographies of some of the men that you consider to be the most brilliant men, and they've all had long bouts of celibacy, whether by force or just because that is what the world pushed them into in the moment, right? Some of the greats, Nikola Tesla, Einstein, right? These were men that swore by celibacy for long bouts of time. They swore by, let's not say celibacy. They swore by retention. Even Steve Jobs swore by retention. These were men that said, okay, you know what? For this duration of time, while I'm trying to birth this idea, I'm going to hold my sexual energy within me, right? There is a direct correlation between you releasing your seed frequently, you spilling all of this sexual energy and just using it on one scale of the polarity, and that one scale is pursuing women, pursuing fleshly pursuits, and then sliding to the other side of that polarity and using it for intellectual gain, spiritual gain, because these are the same thing. Your sexual nature, your desire to be with multiple women, it's the same way that you want to conquer the world. It's the same way that you want to conquer the spiritual realm. The same way that you want to conquer your life. You want to become the master manifestor in your life. You want to attract hella abundance in your life. The more ambitious you are, these are typically men that love women. Now, whether you tap into that ambition or not is going to depend on your discipline, your desire. What do you put as the highest calling in your life? Okay? So, right, like men often feel this persistent pull to experience the new and the unknown and the wild. And this often expresses itself as sexual desire for multiple women. All right, so this isn't a sign of immaturity. It's the masculine trying to embrace all of life. Now, reflection questions. We got a couple. We got two. When have you felt this desire most intensely? During joy, boredom, or stress? Right? When you are not conquering the world, when that energy is not pointing towards something, when you're not deep in work, right? You're going to feel that urge to be with more women more intensely. When you are bored, when you are stressed, right? Typically, as men, you know what I used to remember is that me and my homies would fight. We might get into a fight when I was younger. And after the fight, we would all group up and we would talk about it. And then we would all go off to a different woman, right? Because you have this, and why I say this is because you link your aggression and your desire to conquer the world, that true carnal masculine urge that you have is directly linked to your sexuality. How you direct it is up to you. So if you truly take inventory of your life, you will see that when you are deep in work, your sexuality is fine. When you're deep in brainstorming, your sexuality is fine. When you're bored, when you're stressed, when you're angry and upset, and you're on these opposite sides of the polarity scale when it comes to your emotion, this is when you feel those sexual desires more intensely. All right. And even if we want to go even darker, because we all trying to learn here, right? If y'all want to go even darker, you will even see when we talk about people that are involved in certain crimes, more grotesque behavior, right? Men that are accused, or men who have committed certain sexual assaults, right? There's often a dysfunction in their mind when it comes to aggression and sex. So aggression and sex are tied in the normal man, but then when we go too far down the scale, down the polarity scale, you end up with these sexually abusive men. When you come down the scale, you in the middle, right? People that are balanced, most men, right? You end up with men that are high achievers, or they spend a lot of time trying to pursue women. They're high achievers on the spiritual path, high achievers in physical reality, or they're high achievers with a lot of women. And then you have men that lean more to the feminine scale. Right? So, second reflection question, is the desire truly about the woman or about something that she represents? Okay, when I was, knocking them down back in the day, right? There's always this sense of satisfaction when you get the woman, but if you're not truly building connection with her, if it's for the wrong reason, right? After the sexual experience, if there's no connection there, if you do not truly see anything else, it's this very sharp realization. We can call it post-nut clarity, but it's more than that. There's almost this disgust with yourself that you've wasted your life essence doing this thing that's not getting you any closer to freedom, not getting you any closer to success, right? But psychologically, if you don't take time to analyze that, you really won't understand what it is. What it is a lot of us go down this path where we're pursuing all of these women because we're tying the desire for women with our desire for freedom, our desire to want to conquer, our desire to want to feel important, our desire to want to achieve things in life. And it feels good to be with women because all that feminine energy. We have to think, your mind thinks in polarity. Your masculine energy thinks in polarity. So when you think of freedom, when you start thinking of the things that you want, freedom, money, these are very feminine energy, right? And so the same way that you pursue these things is going to be the same way that you feel about feminine energy. Your desire is not to get a little bit of money. Your desire is to get it all. Your desire is not to get a little bit of freedom for you and your family. Your desire is to get freedom for you and everybody in your family, right? Just like your desire is not going to be with one woman. It's going to be with multiple women. Now, how you actually hone in that energy and what you do with it, this is going to matter because a lot of men, when they do not work on their sexual discipline, end up throwing away their families, throwing away good situations, throwing away good women, throwing away good opportunities. We see men that can throw away their life because they have a lack of sexual discipline, right? But also, if you understand what your desire for women is, it's the desire for feminine energy. Right? This is why we have to learn how to transmute. It's not just enough to sit in the house and not release anymore. It's not just enough to say, well, just keep it in your pants. We need to have active ways to pursue other feminine energy in our life. Whether it's going to be a pursuit of money, whether it's going to be a pursuit of spiritual elevation, spiritual enlightenment, whether it's going to be the pursuit of freedom, whether it's going to be the pursuit of new skills. Most of the world is feminine in its energy. Most of the things that you desire are going to be feminine in its energy. Right? A beautiful car, this is feminine energy. It grants you freedom, right? It grants you the access to just get away, to run away. This is feminine energy. These are the things that you desire. Right? So your desire for multiple women is normal. It is natural. It doesn't matter if you marry a woman today and you love her with all of your heart, you are going to have a sexual desire for variety. Right? You can either suppress that desire or you can understand what it is. And if you understand what it is, you can direct it appropriately to different things, right? I'm going to constantly be in the pursuit of knowledge till the day I die. I will constantly be on a pursuit for money, on the pursuit for skills, on the pursuit for more freedom until the day I die. Because the ulterior, the alternate, the other path is just suppression of my desire to want to attract, to want to engage with feminine energy. Okay? So is the desire truly about the woman or about something that she represents? Right? There are going to be times where you don't even want to have sex with women. Sometimes you just want to pick up the phone. You want to hear a woman speak. You want to feel feminine energy. Right? There are a lot of times where, shoot, I'll go out, my homeboys in town, we just invite women over, not because we want to sleep with them, just because it's nice to be around feminine energy. Because it feels good as a man to be around feminine energy. Right? Understand that desire within you. This isn't something to suppress. Right? You engage with it, you learn it, you feel it. There's even an energetic spark that you're gonna get from being around beautiful women. Right? Beautiful women make you feel better, make you feel more divine, make you feel more pointed. Right? You have a penetrating, the masculine energy is a penetrating energy. You're always going to want to penetrate the world. This is why as men, we have to find some purpose. And like I say, purpose isn't something that falls out the sky and lands in your head. Purpose is something that you create, being the creator of your reality. You're going to go through different stages of your life and you're going to peel back the layer of yourself. This season is just self-improvement. So as I'm hitting the gym, as I'm reading books, I feel this purpose. Right? And my purpose is allowing me to penetrate the world in a different way. Okay? Now I peel that layer back and I meet somebody while I'm in the gym, while I'm going down this self-improvement path and we start a business together. This gives me purpose for another 6 months. Maybe that falls apart, but I learn different skills. I venture off to a new business. I venture off on a new career plan. You always are going to be in different seasons of your life with different purposes, different primary purposes. Right? And we'll see that when you do not have purpose as a man, what do men do? Naturally, because you are a creature designed to seek purpose. The masculine energy in you wants to penetrate the world. And so if you do not have purpose, what you're going to do is you're going to make something close to you your purpose. This is why men that don't have purpose, what they end up doing, they end up putting the woman that they're with on this pedestal. Right? Pleasing her becomes your purpose. Making her happy becomes your purpose. But as you know, no human can make another human happy. Happiness is you can't even make yourself happy 24/7. So if she's happy, you're in a good mood. If she's had a bad day and you can't make her happy, you're in a bad mood. So you're constantly chasing her around. And if you're chasing her around, you can't lead. So you're already at a deficit. You're already in a position where you cannot be the man in a relationship. And if you're not the man in a relationship, it is destined to fall apart. If you put a woman at the head of your relationship and you allow her emotions to lead it because you're simply following her around thinking I'm going to do whatever I can to love her. I'm trying to show her that I love her so much. Prove to her. She will lead herself out onto another dick. She will lead herself right out of that relationship, my brother. Right? So purpose has to be your priority. This is because you are a masculine, energetically driven individual. Okay? The primary purpose of masculine energy is conquering, it's purpose. It's impacting the world. You will feel empty if you do not feel like you're giving back to the world in a certain way. If you don't feel like you're giving back knowledge. If you don't feel like the work you're doing is adding to society. If you don't feel like the work that you're doing is appreciated by your family, is appreciated by you. If you do not feel these ways, then you are not going to be fulfilled. And there's no woman that will ever come into your life that can allow you to feel fulfilled. The woman's priority is the flow of love in her life. This is the woman's priority, right? So as man, your priority is the flow of your purpose. And this is why you were created with a divine purpose. God gave you dominion. When the Most High created your ass, right, he created you to have purpose. Then he created a woman to hold you up while you are executing, going about that purpose, right? So the bigger the purpose, the stronger the woman has to be, right? Because the woman has to be strong enough to acknowledge that, okay, because this man's got a big purpose, he's gonna have some big speed bumps, and I have to be strong enough to hold him up, right? But if he has a small purpose, you can be a weaker woman, right? So there needs to be strength on both hands, on both sides. The man and the woman have strength, but in different ways, right? There are certain things that you are equipped to do as a man that a woman isn't. There are certain things a woman is equipped to do as a woman that you're not, right? I ain't pushing a baby out. For sure ain't doing that. You know? There's certain things she can do that we can't, right? And there's certain ways that we can go out and conquer the world, certain ways that we can carry ourselves, certain things, certain ways that we can protect her that she can't do for us, right? So it's balance. It is divine balance. So understanding your nature, understanding that as masculine energy, you want feminine energy. This is going to keep you from a lot of the frustration in the world. Right? You're going to sit in church and they're going to tell you, don't have sex, don't watch explicit videos. And you're going to sit there and say, okay, I can do that, I can do that. And for 3 days, you can. And for 4 days, it's a little bit more difficult. And then 5 days, you're like, bro, what the hell? I feel frustrated, because no one's teaching you what to do with that sexual energy. They're sending you on a dummy mission. Yeah, just hold it in. Just keep it in your pants. You'll be good. Just sexual discipline. Why can't these men just keep it in their pants? Right? Because the divine design of you is to pursue feminine energy. Right? So if you only think of the pursuit of feminine energy as the pursuit of women, it'll be very difficult for you to exercise any kind of sexual discipline. But once you start learning transmutation, I can work on my body. Right? I can work on this business. Right? I have to stay active because when I feel the strongest desires to pursue women, it's going to be when I'm alone, when I'm bored, when I'm angry, when I'm frustrated. Right? And even women understanding this, it should help them, right? You know that whatever man you get, doesn't matter how infatuated, how in love he is with you, he's going to have the natural masculine desire to be with other women. Doesn't mean he's going to act on it. But if you know that when he's going to feel this desire more intensely or when he's bored, when he's stressed, when he's angry, right? Then that's part of your mission right there, is to make sure that this man's not slipping in the border, making sure that you're pushing him into his purpose, making sure that you're holding him accountable. Right? This is one of the divine designs of women. It's to hold your man accountable. It's to be like, hey, look, you're not living up to who you're supposed to be. The same way that a man does that for a woman. But there are different repercussions. There's different repercussions. This is why, as a woman, you're going to get naturally repulsed if you see your man just lounging around too much. He loses his job. You come home. He's on the couch for a week straight, 2 weeks straight, not really doing shit. You know, the first day you're going to be like, okay. The second day you're going to be a little annoyed. The third day, that coochie going to be dry. Desert dry. Desert storm in the crib. All right? So your body is giving you these indications as to how to handle the divine masculine energy in front of you, right? To hold him accountable, to see the God in him, to speak to the God in him. Look, you better than this. Why are you sitting there, right? But you also have to have the grace to do it, you know, baby. You know how you're just so good at certain things. I know that you can do whatever you put your mind to. You know they're paying these people X amount of money. Have you ever thought about doing this? I think you would be so good at that. I mean, I'm gonna look at you like, have I ever thought about doing it? Of course I have. No, he never has. But because you said it in that divine way, now all of a sudden he's trying to pursue a new skill set to prove to you and to himself how divine he is. Right? And just your feminine energy alone, your ability to speak life into a man, pushes him down this purposeful path. And now you don't have to worry about a man sitting at home bored. And now he ain't stressed either, because at night he telling you about this shit and you like, oh, baby, you so smart. Let me rub your back. I know you had a long, you so smart. You got this. Right? Kingdoms have risen and fallen on the words of women, on the words of divine women. Right? So understanding masculine energy isn't just for men. Understanding masculine energy is for men and women. Right? So I know that I'm going to feel most frustrated when I'm bored, when I'm stressed, when I'm angry. I need to make sure that I am putting myself in a position where I'm experiencing those things as frequently as possible. And I know that I cannot avoid my emotions, so I also need to have good mechanisms in place to deal with these things. Right? If I'm stressed, I want to clap some. My woman ain't giving me none. What you gonna do? Okay? This goes into an even more controversial topic about duties in a relationship, duties in a marriage, right? At what point do the duties end? Because we always say that there's duties. Men and women have duties to one another, right? I have certain duties I have to do for my woman, no matter if it feels good or not, no matter if I like her today or not. Is sex part of that duty? Or do we, or is a duty until it's about the booty? And once it's about the booty, it ain't no duty no more, right? Sex is a part of that duty. You denying that man over and over again. Monday you had a headache. Tuesday you were tired from work. Wednesday your stomach hurt. Okay now. How many times you gonna tell? How many times are you going to reject that man in front of you and expect him to still want to pour into you? Right? What part? Where does the duty start? Right? When I have these conversations, I like to speak to married people. I love speaking to married people because they introduce a new perspective. This is why I believe if you are in a serious relationship, if you're going down the path of being in a serious relationship, you need to hang around more married people. You and your woman, you and your man need to be around married people because the conversations are different, the thought processes are different. The way that you think when you're in a 6-month relationship and a 1-year relationship is different than when you have been with somebody for 5, 6, 7, 10 years and you realize that there's only so many ways she can flip around that coochie. There's only so many different ways, and y'all have obligations to fulfill each other sexually. Y'all have obligations, right? So sometimes it's not that I want her right then, but I know she wants it, and I know getting her there is going to turn me on, so I'm going to go down the path. And that's the same way that you should feel about your man, right? This is the same way that you should feel about your man. There's a duty to this, right? The most beautiful, you can call it beautiful if you want, you might not call it beautiful, but one of the most profound, statements this woman told me, she was like, she said it in front of her husband. So she was like, there are a lot of times where I'll have sex with my husband because I understand the energy that I could be welcoming into our relationship if I continue to deny him. I understand the energy, what I would be welcoming into our relationship if I continue to deny him. Right? I don't always feel like taking your car and going to fill on the gas for you on Sunday nights to get ready for your week, but I do that because I have a duty to you, because I love you, right? I don't always feel like taking the trash out, but I do it because I love you. All right? I don't always feel like telling you certain things, but I do it because I love you. Right? And we understand that love is not a feeling, love is a verb. Love is in the doing. Right? So where does the duty stop for you? Do you believe that duty is boxed in and sex is a whole nother thing? Or do you understand what it means? Right? Because truly, in marriage, y'all are giving y'all's body to one another. Baby, use my body. You know what I'm saying? Use my body how you want to, right? Y'all are giving yourself to one another. But we don't often get into that discussion enough, just like we don't get into the discussion of men that naturally want multiple women. We don't have enough conversations about sexual energy, about transmuting sexual energy, about how to deal as a woman, how to deal with the man. Because the man that you want is going to want multiple women. He's going to have, if he has a masculine essence, he's going to desire multiple women. Doesn't mean he's going to act on it, but he will. So can you understand some of the pitfalls? Can you understand that some of these things come off in boredom? So if your man's sitting around, maybe that's the moment that you should be speaking life into him. If he's angry and upset, this is the moment where you should try to calm him down. Right? If you've been rejecting him so many times, there is a duty though. Okay? And then on the flip end, as a man, all right, I'm going to have this sexual desire. I've had this sexual desire since I hit puberty, since I woke up. Sometime back in the day in middle school, and I started looking around, I said, God damn, these women looking good today. What's going on? And that masculine sexual essence started to wake up. And the more I hold on, the more discipline I get, the more it pulsates within me. The more that dragon rises within you. Right? And so now I have to figure out, what is this desire? It's not just for the feminine within the woman, it's for the feminine in life. I want to penetrate women the same way I penetrate my life. I want money like I want women. I want freedom like I want women. Here's the thing, they're the same thing. It's all feminine energy. So when we start having these conversations about sexual discipline, about men and sexuality, it's a multi-layered discussion, right? So the more that we know ourselves, the more that we understand this, the better we navigate life. There's a direct correlation between your sexual desires, your sexual nature as a man, but then also your desire to get a lot of money, get a lot of freedom, right? Have a lot of accomplishments, right? There is that sexual desire. You're right. Bodies are ours. You feel me? So next, desire does not equal compulsion. Okay. So the power of conscious restraint. If you are waiting to stop being attracted to women, you will wait forever. If this is the goal of quote unquote sexual discipline for you, I'm gonna get to a point where I'm not craving women. I've completely conquered my lust and now my lustful thoughts are gone. So you don't think, so you think one day your sexual desire is going to just disappear at this young age, maybe older, but if you're eating right, you're working out and all this, it's going to be a long time before that happens, right? And I really don't even think it happens. I think parts just stop working, but this desire goes on indefinitely, right? Where is the boundary between lust and desire when it comes to your wife? The moment that you meet her, what do you call the desire for her? You call that desire lust, desire, whatever you want to call it. There's something there. When you get married and your wife come in smelling good, she just rub that new cocoa butter, shea butter, body butter on her, man. And she wearing that perfume you like. She's talking all sweet to you, right? What do you call that? Desire, lust, what do you call that, right? So we constantly hear these messages about don't lust. Don't lust. Sexual discipline, keep it in your pants. Where do we draw the line? Right? The sexual desire that you have is going to run forever. Forever. Where are you going to direct it? This is going to be the most important question, right? Do you exercise or do you use breathing techniques? Okay. Are you constantly in the pursuit of other things? You know, I had this conversation with my dad not too long ago, and he straight up told me, he was like, yeah, so I could never see myself truly retiring because I could not see myself just sitting around because I have to redirect my energy. Right? I have to be doing something. And it's the same way I feel. I could never see myself just stop working, stop learning, stop doing things, just sitting around. Right? And if you want a glimpse of what that's like, be on retention, right? So imagine your parts don't work, be on retention, and just sit around and don't do shit for 5, 6, 7 days. It's not in your nature as a man. The same way that you want accomplishments in life, this is your sexual energy flowing. But if you're not pointing it that way, you're pointing it this way. And you're going to be wanting to pursue every single woman, right? You're going to want spiritual. You're going to want spiritual enlightenment. You're going to want a better life. You're going to want a better body. You're going to want more money. You're going to want a better job. You're going to want all these accomplishments. Desires give you more desires. The more desires you have, the more desires you have. right? So, exactly, brother. Exactly. The longer you are in retention, you see that this energy naturally bleeds into your life because this energy wants to flow. It's either going to flow out through the lower centers or it's going to flow out in other creative ways, in ways that you direct it consciously. So you can either let it flow unconsciously or you can direct it consciously. Right? This is the power of retention. But also, it's the power of transmutation, as I'm sure you know, my brother, right? If you are just retaining and you have no transmutation processes around, right? If you do not have any kind of transmutation, it's going to be very difficult for you to do this. You're going to walk around angry. You're going to walk around even more sexually frustrated. And you can see this in the churches. They have all these sexual scandals. But then also, they're not teaching. The church isn't actively teaching men. Yeah, we want you to wait till marriage, but this is how you utilize your sexual energy. They just telling you to hold on to it and then turn away. Yeah, just hold on to it. Find the right woman. Right? This isn't conducive to your masculine essence. Your masculine essence is never about denial. Your sexual energy is never about denial. It is never about suppression. It's always about creativity and self-mastery. Every practice that you go on, it is about self-mastery. It is about self-expression. It is about self-actualization. It is about directing this energy to a higher goal, to a higher purpose, instead of directing it purely to one purpose. All right? So, suppressing desire only makes it stronger. But indulging it without consciousness weakens you. Suppressing desire only makes it stronger, but indulging desire without consciousness weakens you. Okay? So the superior man neither represses nor acts on every urge. He observes it, breathes through it, and redirects the energy where it can serve his purpose. Right? This requires you to be conscious. All the lectures that we've been having lately have spoken about consciousness. You have to be conscious. Whether you're trying to manifest your life, the life of your dreams, you got to stay conscious. Consciousness is the game. You will have urges. You're going to walk in a gas station. This woman, you might not even be that attracted to her, but feminine energy pours off of her. And when that feminine energy, when you sniff it, god damn, you have this urge. Now, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to hold that urge until you get back to the house and then you're frustrated, you don't know what to do, and you end up on the sites? Or are you going to redirect it to something beneficial? Are you going to take it for what it is? It's a divine blessing. Right? It's just energy. Energy is energy. It can be directed however you want it. But when we walk around unconscious, right? When we walk around unconscious and we just say being with multiple women is in our nature. When we just say that, then we're giving ourselves an excuse to deplete our energy, to throw away our energy, to give it to women who aren't worthy, right? Not every woman is worthy of your seed, brother. Most women are not worthy of your seed. It's going to be few and far between that you find a woman that is worth your seed. And you have to be aware of this. Just because it feels good does not mean it's good for you. Just because it gets you going, right, doesn't mean that you should get to hoeing. All right? So, reflection questions. Number one, what does it feel like to sit with desire without acting on it? It's one of the real cool parts of retention, especially when I was just going on retention and I was starting to throw together longer streaks, a couple weeks, couple months. You get to this point where you can start feeling that energy within you. You know, you might just be sitting around and you can feel that sexual energy and you can start to move it. You can move it through your energy field. You can move it up and down your body, right? You can start thinking thoughts. You can redirect it how you want, right? But if you're not comfortable doing this, you'll just take this energy and feel it as something that wants to be expressed. And that's how you end up on the sites. That's how you end up calling over old girl that can suck a golf ball through a straw. You feel me? I know the challenge, right? But we have to be a superior man. So we cannot fall to every single urge that we have. Like I said, this is destructive. Acting on every urge that you have is destructive. The urge will be there. The urge will be there. But when you act on every urge, this is what happens. You end up in compromising situations. You end up throwing away your family, throwing away your relationship, throwing away your job. You end up in jail. You end up in compromising situations. Right? Well, we have to understand what this desire is. Lots of things can be feminine energy. Freedom is feminine energy, a good walk. Nature is feminine energy. Being in nature can help you with your urges. Well, and then how do you handle it? Do you actually understand? We talked a little bit earlier when I was like, when do you feel this desire most intensely? Is it during joy? Is it during boredom? Or is it during stress? Right. Another level to this, let's take it to a different level. Another level of this is when you're in certain situations, you're going to feel it less, right? When I'm on retention, especially right now. So right now I'm on retention because I'm trying to make some shit happen, right? These are the times where I spend a lot more time with my family. I spend a lot more time at the crib with my family. Every opportunity I can, right? I'm around my family, right? When I'm not working. I try to keep my schedule as active as possible because for me, my number one problem isn't, anger or things because it's very difficult for me to get angry. It's very difficult for me to pull me out, right? But boredom, idle time, right? Idle time is a devil's workshop. That's especially true in my life, especially true, right? So I constantly need to be organized. I constantly need to be doing stuff, productive thing, not just anything, right? But doing things that feel productive, right? Creating these documents, giving these things, talking to my parents, right? Writing, right? Meditating, reading spiritual texts, studying, right? Working out. If I am not actively engaged in these things, then shit. If the right one, I'm not gonna say the wrong, if the right one text your boy, and I'm responding within 10, 12 seconds. Hey, baby, what you doing? I ain't doing nothing, come over, right? So understanding our own triggers also helps us to go down this journey more divinely, okay? And then, number 2, can you tell the difference between urge and mission? Okay, can you tell the difference between urge and mission? Sometimes you are going to be in the middle of doing something and it's going to get a little frustrating and you're going to find yourself thinking about releasing, thinking about being with old girl, thinking about getting on those sites. Right? You are just in an uncomfortable time and your body wants to lean on something familiar. So it's leaning on that familiar type of feminine energy instead of you pushing through and actually getting to the more rewarding and the more fulfilling feminine energy. Right? One thing that I also was talking about earlier, right? You have a mission and a desire to conquer. So sometimes our desire for multiple women is because we want to embrace all parts of femininity. We want to express or experience femininity in its fullness. Okay? So there are so many different ways that you want to penetrate your woman. You want to penetrate her emotionally. You want to penetrate her sexually. You want to penetrate her spiritually, right? You want to penetrate her in all these different ways. And you know that if you do not get one, then you're going to deny yourself of a certain level of submission, a certain level of feminine energy. And so the easier thing to do is to deal with multiple women because there are certain women that you might connect with better because y'all's humor is more in line, right? Instead of working to build that intimacy with this other one, right? With this one, it's already easy. There's certain ones that you already have that sexual chemistry with, right? There's certain women that y'all are more emotionally in tune. You are more spiritually in tune, right? So instead of trying to penetrate one woman to the depths of her and bring out all of that feminine energy within her, not saying that a woman isn't feminine before she has a man, right? What I'm saying is that you're going to unlock different parts of her. The same way that if you pipe a woman down right, you're going to get a different level of submission from her than a woman that you are just tickling the coochie, right? Two completely different experiences, two completely different types of women that you're going to get. One woman, the moment that the moment that you enter a woman, it changes. Now, for the better or for the worse, that's up to you and how you actually experience her, how you give it to her, right? But this is the power that you have. So when you truly understand my desire is to create depth and true connection with a woman, now you can work on that with one. Right? So next we're going to talk about transmuting sexual energy. All right. So a man's desire for freedom can be redirected into his depth of presence, his art, or his mission. So sexual desire is raw power. Most men waste it in short-lived pleasures, but through practices like retention, meditation, or focused purpose, this energy can fuel your creativity, clarity, and dominance in your domain. All right, so reflection questions. Number one, how might your life look if you rechanneled your sexual energy into your craft or business? And then have you experienced the surge of creativity after holding back from indulgence? Indulgence. One of the byproducts of just retaining, one of the byproducts of just abstaining from sex for a little bit of time is the natural creativity that starts to pour out of you. It's as if you can tap into another level of your artistry, of your creativity without even consciously trying. Right? But when you are actively trying to point that energy that way, you can also you can achieve greater heights. Right? So when we are going down the path of trying to discipline, trying to keep that sexual energy under control, one of the most important things is you cannot just remove an outlet without adding another outlet. Okay? So you go down this retention journey and your life stays the exact same. The only thing you change is you do not release. You're gonna struggle. Okay? So even if we talk about the natural cycle of a retainer, all right, let's break this down for a second. So most men don't go longer than a week, 2 weeks without retaining their whole life. Fuck, a week, 2 weeks, that's a long time. Most men don't go 2-3 days without releasing their whole life. Okay? So what does this mean? Your body's primary function is to pass on your genetics, to preserve your species. The body wants to reproduce. So anytime that you release, your body's going to go into hyperdrive to replace that nutrient. So it's going to strip energy from other bodily functions. Right? You can think of the bodily functions as your different organs. You can think of it as the different energy centers within you. Right? So if your sacral chakra is always lit up or it's closed because you don't have enough energy there because your body's trying to reproduce, it's trying to build up more sperm, then it's going to strip energy away from other centers. All right? So fast forward. Now, the life cycle of sperm. Sperm takes about 74 days to reach full maturity in your body. So from the moment that you release, boom, now you have a new sperm. All right. They're always being created, but from that moment, it's 1 day old. After 74 days, it's fully mature. Now it drops into your nuts. When it drops into your nuts, it stays there for about 15 days. If not released, your body breaks it down and starts to recycle it through your body. And only after these about 90 days does your body get into homeostasis and say, God damn, finally, this motherfucker stop releasing. Now we can actually give energy back to other bodily processes. So your body, it's about 90 days before you're in homeostasis. Why do I say this? Because most men, when they first start this retention journey, what happens? They struggle the first week, the first 2 weeks, first month, first 3 months, really. Because I said, man, I have so much energy. I feel aggressive. I feel like I can just punch a wall. I just want to fight, right? So your body stores memory. Your body remembers. Your body stores emotions. This is why your body can think faster than your brain. If you're truly conscious and you've been through a heartbreak, you can feel emotions in your body before you have thoughts. So if you go through a difficult heartbreak, if somebody passes away that's close to you, you might get a feeling in a certain body part. For me, it's typically my side. So when you become conscious of this, what you'll notice is that you're not always 100% aware of your triggers. There are some triggers that just trigger you subconsciously. You can be in the car and hit a pain in your side, then all of a sudden your brain starts thinking thoughts that relate to that pain. Okay? So your body stores emotions. So now all of a sudden you're down this negative thought loop and it started in your body. It didn't even start in your mind. But if you're not conscious, you might think it started in your mind and now your stomach hurts or your back hurts or whatever. But that's not where it started. Why do I say this? I say this, let's go back to retention. I say this because your body is so used to you always releasing. Always making it rain on the socks, on the sheets, on the pillowcases. Right? That it's constantly thinking, oh shit, we're going to release soon, so we need to overproduce. So that first 90 days, what do you have? You probably have some wet dreams, right? Where you're releasing in your sleep, nocturnal emissions, because it's your body can only fill itself up to a certain capacity, right? And so when it starts overflowing, it's like, okay, the body's intelligent enough to know we have to release this. We got to get this out. But typically, after about 90 days, those things wear off because your body snaps back into homeostasis, and now it can actually get back to a normal routine of creating this sexual energy, creating this fluid within you. This is why you feel so hyped up that first 90 days. This is why when any man goes on retention, I say you have to at least get to 90 days. When you get to 90 days, then okay, you can release every 2 months, every month if you want. But the goal should be at least 90 days. Because you want your body to get back into homeostasis. So at least on a physiological level, that energy can start flowing to different parts of you. Right? But if you really want to take it further on the spiritual path, instead of 90 days, you want to do a year. For lots of reasons. One of the main reasons being that when you go a year, you actually have a seed that's released in your brain. It travels down your spine, sits around your sacral area, okay? And then every month, this seed is actually brought back into your brain. It interacts with your pineal gland if your pineal gland is open. So there's crystals on your pineal gland, right? Electric crystals. And so if you're eating right, if you're meditating, right, if you're drinking water, right, the pineal gland is open, you have crystals on it. There's actually a secretion that is released from your claustrum. Claustrum being Santa Claus, sounding like Santa Claus, right? So this is a story of Santa Claus bringing gifts down the chimney. So the claustrum secretes an oil called the chrism sounding like Christ. It reacts with the pineal gland, and there is a reaction there that happens. And when this reaction happens, if you look at like our ancestors, right? They always used the cobra as this sign. When they talked about sexual energy, they always used the cobra. Why? Because your pineal gland, when this happens, it swells up like a cobra. And then you have the pituitary gland under it that starts flickering like the tongue of a cobra. Okay? And when this happens, there is a physiological process that happens in your brain that opens up your crown chakra that helps you have better communication with your ancestors, more telekinetic powers. Right? It unlocks different parts of you that are suppressed. Right? So this is in alignment with what we call the Kundalini or the eternal flame or the Holy Spirit. Whatever you want to call these things, they're all the same, right? But they refer to this physiological process. Even that process of raising this energy up the 33 vertebrae symbolize the 33 years of Jesus Christ. Okay, so like I say, every spirituality, there's always multiple layers of truth. One of the layers of truth is the Bible. You could look at it as a historical document if you want, but we've already broken down a lot of different layers. One of the layers, or one of the reasons why we talk about, the teachings of Jesus so much is because Jesus represents your I am awareness, your consciousness, your awareness that you are God, right? So Jesus drops a lot of gems on how to manifest the life that you want. But another metaphor for the story of Jesus is raising your Kundalini within you. And this is specific to the death and the rebirth. The death and the rebirth. So Jesus dying on the cross, staying there for 3 days. You actually have another process where this seed actually lays dormant in your sacrum for 3 days. And it goes up. There's a part of your brain called Golgotha, right? Golgotha being the place that Jesus was crucified, or place that Jesus' tomb was, right? It actually means place in the skull. Golgotha means place in the skull. Like, so a lot of these processes, or a lot of things that are talked about in the Bible, there's multiple layers to them. Right? So when we understand that there are multiple truths to things, voila, this Bible becomes, oh my God, all this information. You can read it 18 different times, get 18 different meanings. They're all true. All true at the same time. Okay? A little side quest. We have to go on that side quest, right? But one of the things that we need to learn how to do is transmute. You don't want to just shut off one process. I don't want to just shut off releasing and then just add something on top. Okay? Or I don't want to stop releasing and not add something on top. I don't want to stop releasing and add nothing else. Just be sitting around the crib saying, I'm not going to release. Because that energy is going to want to express itself. And it will express itself in detrimental ways. You're going to end up just you're gonna end up playing with yourself, bro. You're gonna end up talking to a woman you don't want to talk to because all that energy is gonna give you so many urges. So you need to be doing other things. You need to be working out, taking walks, other things that are in alignment with feminine energy, right? Making money, working on your business, right? It's not specifically the same for women because y'all's process is different than ours. Okay, y'all's process. So that entire process is called the sacred secretion in men. But as women, you release every month. You have a different type of process, right? That happens to you every month. So it's because someone did ask me. I think Felicia asked me if I knew someone that could speak to it from a woman's perspective. And I was looking, I didn't quite find anybody. I found a woman who spoke about, if I can find her, I'll put her in the notes. But good question. But no, that part was specific for men. That raising of that eternal flame, that raising of the sacred secretion. That's a male thing, and it's directly in alignment with holding on to your semen. Because even as a woman, we have different spiritual benefits when it comes to releasing than y'all do. Like our sexual processes are completely different. This is why women typically feel more renewed than men after they orgasm, because y'all's is internal. Yours are already naturally more spiritually enlightened. But men, we can learn how to orgasm. As men, you can experience orgasms without releasing. Right? Now, when you go down that path of trying to do that, you're probably going to end up finishing several times before you master it. But you can learn how to orgasm without releasing, which will actually lead to more rejuvenation within your body. Even if you do not want to release, right? There's still benefits of having sex without releasing for men. So if you study the Tao, okay, there is a process called sexual alchemy that the Tao talks about, where if you enter a woman, if you have sex with a woman, okay, it's called the circulating or the exchanging of sexual energies. But your sexual energy, your semen, when you have sex with a woman that cares about you, this sexual energy transforms to something called Jing. Okay, and then it's transmuted in your body to something called Ki, which is your life force, which rejuvenates your body. And you experience this transformation, this rejuvenation, only if you deal with women that care about you. Because, okay, we're finna go on another side quest. All right, because the woman's womb is very cleansing. And it's very spiritual. This is literally something that you enter and you shoot it up, and a fetus is born, which becomes a divine portal for a soul to drop into this experience. Okay, so one of the beautiful things about women is that women are the energetic centers of the home and the spiritual centers of the home. Men are the emotional and spiritual heads. The emotional and spiritual leader of the home is the man. The spiritual and emotional center of the home is the woman. So women take on energy in a different way. Let me give you an example. If you've ever vented to a woman, or if you've ever told her something that's going on in your life, what you'll notice very obviously is a woman who does not care about you could fucking care less about what's going on in your life that you're stressed about. But a woman that loves you, she'll care about this situation more than you do. She carries energy in a different capacity than we do. As men, this is how we carry energy. A woman comes to you with a problem, you immediately want to get that problem off of her plate. You immediately go into, okay, is this something I need to fix right now? Which also requires a level of emotional intelligence and conversational intelligence to understand if she's just venting or just wants to talk or actually wants a solution. Which is a whole other thing, is a lot of times women don't want solutions. But that's a whole other conversation for another time. Let's say that she does want a solution. Your immediate desire, the masculine nature within you, because you're the emotional leader, you want to take that problem and completely eliminate it from her life. You want to kill that problem for her. The same way that the moment that she shows you a spider or a roach, you might be scared of that shit when you're by yourself, but you immediately want to kill it and remove it from her life. Okay, this is your masculine essence. But there are things you might tell your woman, and she comes back the next day talking about it. You're like, damn, you're more stressed than me. I was just telling you about it. It's okay now, right? So women energetically hold on to things in a different way than men do. Now, why is this beautiful? This is beautiful because who vents to women? Children vent to women. Women's friends vent to them. Sometimes their parents vent to them, right? Women vent to themselves, right? And then all month, they're storing all of this emotional energy within them, and emotions want to move. So the womb is cleansing. So everything has a spiritual and a physical component. As we talk about everything has balance. There's multiple truths, multiple things that happen on a spiritual and a physical level. So physically, during the woman's cycle, she's eliminating toxins. All the McDonald's she was eating is coming out, right? But her body is eliminating toxins from down there. Okay. On the spiritual level, you are eliminating energy. Okay. You're eliminating energy. So what happens to all the people that have been venting on you, all those things? You're eliminating that energy. Your woman's saying, okay, this isn't needed for us anymore. This is how intelligent the womb is. Now, the womb, being that it's connected to the woman, what do you think happens to you, gentlemen, when you enter a woman who does not truly care about you? What do you think her womb uses you for? Right? So there is an energetic exchange where every time a man enters a woman, whether you bust fully or not, you're gonna have some sperm to get loose up in there. Right? Your sperm attaches to her brain for the rest of her life. So they've done autopsies on women and found sperm of all of their lovers in their brain. So DNA-wise, genetically, you're changing her. But what's also happening to you, that if she doesn't care about you, what is happening, right, is that her womb is starting to use you for a cleansing process. This is why even if you're retaining and you lay down with a woman who don't really care about you, what happens? You feel worse. You feel more drained, more lethargic, more disgusted. Right? You take on energy that is not yours. It's how divine the womb is. This is why you have to treat the womb with respect, bro. This is why you have to be very, very careful of the women that you lay with. Right? You got to be very, very, very careful with the women that you lay with. And we also know that as you come into more knowledge, you're held more accountable. This is why when you used to release all the time, when you were releasing all the time and you didn't know about retention, you didn't really have that many consequences. You felt fine. Right? You had consequences, but part of it was ignorance. Part of it was you just weren't aware. Now, once you came into that awareness, once you started coming into consciousness and getting into spirituality, and then you had that aha moment where you probably didn't even need somebody to directly tell you about retention. You just intuitively were like, bruh, every time I release, I don't feel great. Like, this, if somebody ran up in the crib right now, I'd be more prone to getting robbed when I'm empty than if I was full. I feel sharper when I'm fuller. Right? Naturally, you start to come to this understanding, right? Unless you just walk through life. There's a lot of men that just walk through life sleep and they're like, retention, no way, I got to bust all the time to be clear. Right? But when you come into more knowledge, you are more accountable. So as you're coming down this spiritual path, as you're getting into retention, as you're starting to understand the divinity of your sexual energy, you know that when you lay down with certain women, it's not right. There's certain women that hit your phone and you look at it, but you're having those urges and you're like, man, I know I should not deal with this woman. You know this on a subconscious level. Right? You're more accountable now for it. Your soul begins to wake up to these truths. Right? So you got to be very, very conscious. Very, very conscious. This is even why, men having sex with a lot of women and women having sex with a lot of men, it's not the same. Physically, we can act like it's the same. To the spiritually unconscious, let's put it like this, right? To the unconscious, it is the same, right? So she's getting shot up by all these men, and it's changing her. And she's all these men within her, right? It's changing her on a DNA level, gradually over time, right? But, if you're ignorant to that, if you're not conscious, if you're just walking through the life and you're just enjoying the flesh, it doesn't make a difference. But once you step into higher consciousness, Right? You start realizing what it is. This is why even when a lot of women go down the spiritual path, a lot of them subconsciously turn into succubus and Jezebel because they understand how much more powerful the seed of a spiritual man is. The more that you hold on to that seed, the better she's going to feel when she gets with you. There's more energy. She can feel your energy. Right? There's several women that have been able to tell that I'm on retention before I tell them. Like, oh shit, you're on retention. And so these are just things to be aware of, things to be conscious of as you continue to navigate life, gentlemen and ladies. Things to be conscious of. All right. So let's see. Number 4. Number four. All right. You don't need to have sex with every woman you desire. You need to feel through your desire into the openness that you truly crave. Right? We have to understand what our desire for feminine energy truly is. It's not always just about conquering a bunch of women. It's about conquering life. And it's a metaphor for life. Everything has different layers. Everything is layered. Nothing is one-dimensional. Everything is multi-dimensional. Yes, you have a desire for a lot of women, but you can also turn that desire into other things. You can turn that desire into the desire for a lot of money, the desire for a nice body, the desire for creative expression through your art, the desire for fame, the desire for whatever you want to do, right? That feminine energy, that desire for feminine energy can be utilized in several different ways, okay? So the desire for many women is often a shallow attempt to touch the depth of the feminine. So I touched on this a little bit earlier. Let's touch on this in a little bit more detail, okay? So the desire for many women is often a shallow attempt to touch the depth of the feminine. A superior man learns to see the divine in one woman, accessing the full range of feminine energy through presence, devotion, and depth of intimacy. Now, I'm not saying that a man that has multiple women isn't a superior man, right? But there are different mindsets when it comes to engaging in monogamy and engaging in polygamy. Completely different mindsets, right? One is more about intimacy with the woman. The other one is more about community building, right? If I really want to go down the polygamous path, I'm focused on community. Because women are changing beings, right? You have to have a different type of woman to engage in polygamy. You have to be a different type of man, right? It's community first, for sure. Okay? It's community first, for sure. Right? It's more about creating the children, creating this legacy, having this sustainable environment for everybody than it is about me and this woman having intimacy. Okay? You're still going to have intimacy, don't get me wrong, but they're two different focuses. Now, if you're the type of man who's wired or who wants to one day be married with one woman, or maybe you don't even want one woman, you want a couple, but you want deep devotion with them. You're not really talking about, having families with all three of these women being sister wives. You just want to be with multiple women. No shame, man. No shame or condemnation. Walk in your highest truth. But understand that sometimes your desire to be with multiple women like that is because you truly want deep communion with one. You really want deep communion with one. And because you can't get everything you want out of this one woman because you're not skilled enough or because she's not open enough, because we can't just put everything on us, right? Sometimes it's, you know what I'm saying? You got to meet each other halfway, right? But if either one of those truths are there, then you're going to be like, okay, well, let me just find some other women, right? I would challenge you and say that before you step into the realm of having two, prove to yourself that you can create deep intimacy and communion with one woman, right? In an open way that still highlights your truth, right? So you can still communicate to her, I do want multiple women, but you don't go after multiple women. You simply try to build that presence with her, with that understanding, with that knowing that it will be multiple women eventually, right? And if you can do this and not get to a point where eventually she gets mad because you're going to have multiple women, right? If you can't keep the communion open and honest like that to a point where there's no feeling, then you're not skilled enough to do it with two. Or she's not truly open enough to do it with two, right? So you want to, it's like the corporate world. Like when I was working in tech, we did proof of concepts. Before you build the whole infrastructure, you want to do a proof of concept. Okay? So you want to make sure that you are able to connect in deep communion with one and then move it out to multiple. But a lot of times, why you're going to really want to jump around and get multiple women is because you feel like the communion is not deep enough with this one woman. Okay. So, reflection questions. Are you really seeking variety or intensity? It's a question I had to ask myself, like, and it can be a mix. It can be a mix. But the point of this is to make sure that you're living in your highest truth. And if you're living in your highest truth, you want to communicate from your highest truth. Because when you communicate from your highest truth, you can actually attract people that are in alignment with your highest truth, right? I don't condemn anyone who's living in their highest truth and walking in that truth. Right? The problems come and where we ruin things, ruin our own situations, throw away families, throw away good things, is when we have one ideal of truth in our mind, but we're not brave enough to walk in it. If you want multiple women, there's no problem in that, right? Don't let the world make you ashamed to desire that, right? The same way that if you still want marriage with one woman, there's nothing wrong with that. If that is your version, if that is your ideal truth, then live in it. The same way if you want a community of chocolate sister wives, right? Each of them thick in their own way, you feel me? If you want to catalog them, you can have that too. But live and operate from that highest truth, okay? And then make sure that you are skilled enough to do it. And ask yourself these true questions, because what you don't want to do is go down that path and then realize, damn, it's not that I wanted variety, I just wanted intensity, and still, no matter how many women I get, I cannot satisfy this hunger within me, right? Or get to a point where I say, well, damn, I've realized that this hunger that I have, and I'm just out here with all these women, really it's because I desire purpose in my life. I desire to penetrate the world, and the best that I can do is penetrate a lot of women. Okay? So we have to have the honest conversations with ourselves before we can have the honest conversations with others. Right? I need to be able to come from a truly authentic and self-actualized place when I'm walking into these environments with women, and I'm saying, look, yeah, I went a long period of my life where I thought that I just wanted one woman. But then I evolved and I realized, it was intensity that I wanted. Right? I wanted intensity with one woman. If I couldn't get that intensity with her, then I was going to crave other women. And so, yeah, I'm willing to work, but if you don't like me, if I don't feel like we can actually build that intensity, I'm going to want to venture off. And so I'm living for my highest truth. Now, whether she cool with that or not, that's her problem. Right? And I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'll tell you if I want to venture off, but this is how I feel about the situation. I don't desire anything less than absolute devotion and absolute intensity for a woman in my life. Right? I'm not saying that this is my specific feelings, but I'm saying that if you can come with this amount of rawness and realness and truth, the world is really your playground. The world is your playground, right? So, number 2, second reflection question. What if your current partner could reflect all aspects of the feminine if you brought more presence? Another thing we have to understand about masculine energy is more stable than feminine energy. As we should know, just logically, because feminine energy represents what? Freedom. It's free flowing. It's everywhere. It's explosive. When you think of the Big Bang, since everything is layers and everything is multidimensional, one of the metaphors for the Big Bang, right? What we think is the Big Bang is the same thing that happens with sex when you conceive a child, right? There's this explosion of energy within the woman. There's this unlimited womb energy. The womb is connected to the cosmos and all this energy. That's why the woman's emotions are all over the place. And you insert into this woman, right? And with this explosion that happens, Your entering in her still brings this all into order. This is why when your woman comes to you with 1,000 problems, her mind's just running all over the place, one of your greatest pleasures that you'll have is sitting her down, taking her thoughts, organizing them, pointing them in a direction, and then providing her with that premium grade A 93 Supreme Vibranium pipe afterwards, right? It's one of the deepest pleasures that you'll have as a man. It's taking all that explosive energy and organizing it and shooting it. Now, why I say this is because as a man, you're always going to have to be more skilled in the relationship. You have to be. Just think about the nature. Don't think about how it should be. Think about how it is, right? When you meet a woman, she's going to want you to be superior in a lot of ways. She's going to want you to be smarter than her. She's going to want you to be more emotionally intelligent. She's going to want you to be more spiritually solid. Okay, she's going to, of course, physically stronger, of course, right? But even she's going to want you to be more sexually experienced, right? As a man, you'd be fine if a woman couldn't please you all the way because we coach you up. We coach you up, that's cool. But a woman, a lot of women, their deal breakers are if this was the perfect man and he walked in and he couldn't please you sexually, I have to think about it. You're gonna have to think about that shit, man. All right, so you're gonna have to be more skilled. Let's talk about the situation I gave earlier, okay, where if you walk in the crib, your woman lost her job and she's sitting on the couch depressed for a day. Cool. For a week. Cool. For 2 weeks. You'll be concerned, but would you be thinking, bro, this bum finna leave her ass? No, probably not. You're going to be doing everything you can to try to help her, right? Now, let's reverse the roles. Do you think if you were sitting around on the couch because you just lost your job and you could not get a job and you didn't even put in the effort to go get one, you were just sitting on the couch depressed for 2-3 weeks, do you think your woman would be okay with that? And she'll probably look at you with disgust, brother, right? We love differently, which is fine. It's nothing to condemn. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It just is what it is, right? When a woman receives a man's love, it's going to be the closest thing that she experiences to unconditional love, right? The same way that when we experience, as men, when we experience a mother's love, it'll be the closest that we get to experiencing unconditional love. This is just what it is, right? This is the beauty of our divine union. That's how beautiful it is, right? But you're going to have to be more skilled, meaning there are going to be certain relationships that you're going to be able to heal just by more presence. Now, you also have to understand the difference between using your presence to enhance the relationship versus trying to use presence to bribe her into loving you because she's showing that she's pulling away and all these things. And in that case, you need to dip, right? In that case, you absolutely need to dip, okay? But a lot of times your presence can solve things. Your presence as a man is your power. That's why you feel more presence when you even hold on your sexual energy. It's as if your astral body starts building within you. You can stand in rooms with more presence. You can stand and work with more presence. You can look at people directly with more presence. Your presence is powerful. Your presence is attractive. Women like your presence. Okay? So it is a very honest and self-accountable question to ask. What if your current partner could reflect all aspects of the feminine if you brought more presence? Okay, next. How do you get over heartbreak? I'll talk about that at the end. We'll talk about that. But I do have a whole presentation on that one. But let's talk about that. But I want to finish this topic. So number 5, freedom is found through devotion. Okay, so the masculine grows by challenge, but the feminine grows by praise. Okay, so here is the twist. Chasing novelty is not freedom. It is escape. Chasing novelty, chasing pleasure. When is your life as a man ever about chasing pleasure, about chasing what feels good right now? Name one time where that's going to benefit you. You're going to end up locked up. You're going to end up in terrible situations. You're going to end up broke. You're going to end up poor. You're going to end up in all these compromising situations if you chase what feels good right now. It is escapism. Okay? True freedom is internal, not external. It is found when you're no longer ruled by your urges. One of the greatest pleasures that you will experience as a man, is not suppressing your lower nature, but learning to live with them, learning to transcend these things. Okay? But when you've mastered them, devotion, not addiction, is the doorway to liberation. Your devotion to feminine energy, your devotion to a deep bond with feminine energy, a deep bond with your woman, a deep bond with your work, a deep bond with freedom. Right? This is liberating. This is liberating. The freedom that you feel when you conquer your woman. You want to be the most skilled man at handling a woman that she's ever experienced. Right? I'm the most skilled in talking her through her emotions. I'm the most skilled in solving her problems. I'm the most skilled. You might not be the best. Right? You might not be the biggest. Right? We're in 2025. Your woman probably done had something crazy in her past, right? However, you can still get to a point where you build that emotional connection, you build the sexual connection in a different way, right? It's one thing to be able to do all the tricks that she likes, which you should be able to do just by mastering her, by bringing out that vulnerability and talking to her. But there's also a depth of connection that allows you to penetrate her in a different light sexually. And most women aren't really used to that. Most women are used to men just purely masturbating with their body. And if he can do tricks, they call it good sex. If he can't, they call it bad sex. Right? Most women have never had a man affirm them during sex. Never truly had a man talk to them and call out their divinity during sex. Right? Most women have never had a man truly connect with them during sex in a different way and make the experience different, right? Sometimes we can make the situation lively. Sometimes, you know what I'm saying, you can beat it up. Sometimes you can make it a spiritual experience. Mm-hmm. You can open up you can activate a woman's kundalini through sex. Give her that spinal tap, right? You can hit her the right way and you can spiritually awaken her during sex. So there are lots of things that you can accomplish even if you're not, her biggest, right? So there are multiple ways that you can open up your woman, all right? So reflection questions. And we almost done. What if the next level of your masculine power lies not in having more, but in going deeper? Right? Who would you become if you were no longer controlled by lust? Right? You would become a much better version of yourself. A version of yourself that you're much more proud of. Okay? So in conclusion, desire does not make you weak. What you do with your desire defines your strength. Shit. The superior, I put my water in the freezer. I forgot it was there. All right. Desire doesn't make you weak. What you do with it defines your strength. The superior man uses his desire as fuel for depth, for purpose, and for spiritual growth. That is what your desire is. It is fuel for depth, it's fuel for purpose, it's fuel for spiritual growth. Your desire is your fuel for self-improvement. Okay? You're always going to desire feminine energy. You're always going to desire a variety of feminine energy. Now, how you direct that desire is up to you. Right? As Data reminds us, it's not about what you feel, it's about what you do with what you feel. Man, I put it in there earlier because I was like, damn, I know I want this water cold, bro. I want this water cold. And now it's like, I can't even enjoy it. Oh well. But yeah. So when we have these conversations about sexual discipline, sexual liberation, retention, we cannot have a conversation without talking about how to transmute energy. We cannot have a conversation about the church just telling us, oh, it's a sin. Don't have sex before marriage. Just don't do it. And then women yelling, just keep it in your pants. We cannot have these conversations without truly tapping into what is your desire for multiple women? What does that actually mean? Because this isn't just a few men that experience. This is most men. Most men that have healthy, masculine-led energy have a desire to be with multiple women. You could be with your woman and a woman with a fat ass walks by and your instinct, She don't even have to have a fat ass. A woman that walks by, your instinct is going to be to look. You're going to look without thinking, unless you're extremely conscious and you're trying to suppress that desire not to look. Right? Is this wrong or is this right? Well, these desires that you have, they're part of you. Whether they're right or wrong is completely dependent on how you direct them. Okay? Do you want multiple women? Do you want to penetrate life deeper? Do you want to become the master of those lower desires, or is your primary purpose in life to allow those lower desires to lead you? Right? It's always about you choosing what direction you want to go down. If you want multiple women, cool. But there's also other feminine energy that you can penetrate. You are going to want to penetrate the world the same way that you penetrate your woman. You're going to want to penetrate your woman the same way that you penetrate the world. And the most successful men are the men that have the highest sex drives. The quote unquote well-sexed men, right? It doesn't mean that they're having a lot of sex, or even could, right? But it does mean that they're able to transmute that sex, that sexual urge, that desire for feminine energy. You're able to transmute it into something more beautiful, more beneficial for you, right? So I think this is a conversation that we probably should have a lot more often. All the desire for multiple women, it's a natural thing. Right? And sure, it could make women insecure. It could trigger you. It could trigger a lot of women. Be like, oh, yeah, that's just wrong. Right? But we don't like to live in fantasy world, right? We want to deal with reality. And when we deal with reality, we understand how we can navigate better. Right? If I just try to suppress this, it is going to outpicture itself, man. You're going to end up extremely violent. You're going to end up doing something that you regret. You're going to end up just being a chronic, explicit video watcher, right? If you just try to suppress this energy, it will be made manifest some way. Right? But if you understand this energy, if you work with this energy, if you understand what triggers you, if you understand what this energy truly is a desire for, well, now you can walk down that divine path. Okay? You can walk down that divine path now. And then women, if you understand this about your man, and you understand those three things we're talking about, right? When do most men feel the urges to release? They feel those urges when they're bored, angry, frustrated. This is why so many men want a woman to be their peace. And then we also talked about the duties of sex during marriage, during a relationship, how we tend to talk about duties and then we want to completely exclude sex from those duties. Right? This man should be absolutely faithful to me, but I only have sex with him when I want to, and that's once in a while when I don't have a phantom headache, a ghost stomach ache. I'm not tired from scrolling on Twitter at work all day. Right? So when we understand these things, when we step into our duty, when we understand who we are as humans, we can navigate our relationships better, we can navigate life better. We can just be better people for the people that we love. Okay? All right, so let's see. If y'all have any questions, anything that you want me to cover. I know we covered a lot today. We talked about retention, we talked about the womb, we talked about a lot of shit. But anything that y'all want to talk about? What's seriously selfish? Oh, thinking with the other head. Let's talk about that. Thinking with the other head being selfish. It depends on the situation. If you're committed to someone and you're not living out your highest idea, right? So if I'm thinking with the other head, there's gonna be times for it, right? I get what you mean. I'm just trying to think through this in a different way. if I'm telling women, all right, if I'm operating from my highest ideal and I come into this inner knowing that the point of my life, I'm going to spend most of my life just fucking off, just dealing with a whole bunch of women in a fleshly way, right? And I'm honest enough to speak that truth to whoever I experience. I guess that is the only way that it's not selfish. Any other way is very selfish. And so if we talk about that case where I think you're referring to, especially like cheating or just being unloyal, right? We have to understand that our heart center, being magnets for the things that we want, is in alignment with integrity and righteousness. So why I say that you want to be a match to your highest ideal and you want to walk through life, you want to ask yourself the tough questions, and you really want to understand why you are doing things. Because if you understand why you're doing things, you walk around and you do them without shame. So if I know that why I'm doing this is I don't necessarily want intensity, but I want variety with women, and I'm okay with speaking that, there are going to be certain women that ridicule me for that. And that's fine. We're just not in alignment, right? But there's also going to be women that I really like that I can't have. Now, if I'm not comfortable walking in my truth, and those women, I cross paths with them, and I really want her, but I don't think that she aligned to my truth, then I would be willing to lie to get her. Which means I'm not walking with an open heart center. I'm not walking in righteousness. I'm not walking in integrity, right? So that actually hurts me when it comes to attracting certain things that I want, because even subconsciously, you're going to start thinking that you're not truly that worthy anymore because you're not walking as your highest ideal. So this is why we have to ask ourselves these tough questions and figure out what we want. And then when we understand what we want, boom, now we can walk through life unapologetically going after that. Because it's not that you only attract what you are, right? This is a world of polarity. You're going to attract what you are, then every level underneath it. Right? Just because you believe you're a good person don't mean you always attract good people, right? You're going to still attract people that are lessons. You're going to still attract people that are giving you the opportunity to prove that you are who you say you are. So one of the reasons why you attract those types of people is because if you say you want a healthy relationship, you attract somebody who doesn't, but they're a great time for you. This old girl, she does all the shit that you like. The golf ball through the straw, that's her. All right? She sucked peanut butter out of jar of straw. Anyways, if she comes up to you, are you going to fall back in that pattern, or are you going to declare who you are to the world, to the universe? And if you can declare that, right, now you are proving even further that you're a vibrational match to the people and the things that you want. And so things like her can fall off. Right. And if we think of it on another plane, if you're the type of person who's thinking, okay, I just want to sleep with women, but you're acting like you're a one woman man, or as a woman, you're acting like you're a one man woman. Okay. Off top, y'all not even in alignment if the person that you meet wants to be in a committed monogamous situation. So you cannot give all of yourself as a byproduct. They can't give all of them. Right? And you're not walking in authenticity, which is the highest frequency. And if you're walking as who you are, you feel more worthy, which allows you to actually pull into your life the things that you want. Okay. So there's all kinds of, spiritual repercussions for not being authentic, for not being the person that you want to be. You have to be so in alignment with what you want that you're willing to see something that you really want that's not in alignment with what you want and reject it. It's one of those ultimate life tests to see, okay, are you on the right path? Are you truly who you say you are? You're going to have those kind of moments all the time. Are you who you say you are moments? Are you really who you say you are? Right? Are you really as player as you say you are? Are you really looking for a relationship? Are you really looking for a relationship as much as you say you are? Okay, do you really want a good man as much as you say you do? Okay, you're going to have plenty of these opportunities. All right. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. But no, that's a good comment, man. Hopefully, this helps women as well, these messaging, because
for men, it's important that we understand feminine energy because the world is calling us to cultivate feminine energy more, right? Because times are changing. We talked about this in several lectures as well, how the world is evolving, where people seem to be wanting to say, oh, I just want a traditional man, or I want a traditional woman, etc. But those things are remnants of the past. It's just like old folks that are clinging on to the past. We're becoming those new old folks that are trying to cling on to the past, right? The world isn't how it is, or it isn't how it used to be. Women aren't just being raised just to be wives anymore. It would be irresponsible of the parents to do that because it's not even a guarantee that you'll get married. But what is a guarantee is that them bills gonna come one day and you're gonna have to pay them, right? Even if you get a husband, you might not get a husband that makes $500K a year and can, pay for you to stay at home. So you might have to contribute. So you're gonna find women that are more cultivated in their masculine energy, and they have more examples of leadership at work, which means that they're gonna have to be more skilled in maintaining their feminine energy. All right? So we have to all come into the consciousness that the same skills that I developed for the job are not conducive to a healthy relationship. All right? The same things that you develop for a job are not conducive to a healthy relationship. All right? So the same way that women have to understand that, men, we have to understand, okay, since she has more examples of masculine energy around us, I have to be more secure and more divine in my masculinity. But women aren't just asking you to pay the bills and shut up anymore. Well, not pay the bills and shut up, but women aren't just asking you to pay the bills and that's what makes you a good man anymore, right? Back in the day, you could have a family here, a family out in South Dallas, a family out in Fort Worth. You pay the bills, you're a good man. You go to each of these cribs and you got different pictures of you up with your other family, right? So nowadays, women want you to connect more emotionally. So you have to cultivate a lot of your feminine energy as well, right? So the same way that women are cultivating their masculine energy, because like we talked about even in this lecture, money is feminine energy. So if a woman wants to attract money, she's going to have to attract, or she's going to have to turn on masculine energy. Now, freedom is feminine energy as well. So if she wants freedom, she's going to have to settle in feminine energy, right? But money, to gain that, you have to step into the polarity of masculine energy, right? That's why the corporate environment is very masculine energetically. Even if you sell a feminine product, when you actually execute on the business side, the money side, you have to execute in more masculine energy. So both genders are being called to be more skilled, okay? So we can't get away with the same shit that we used to. Women can't get away with the same shit they used to either. Just like we can't get away with the same shit that we used to, right? So we all have to be, gods and goddesses of balances of purpose, and all that divine stuff, right? If I want it and it's not in alignment with who I am, that automatically makes me want it less. And that's beautiful. That means that you're really in attunement, really in alignment with who you are. But most people aren't, right? Most people, we're coming into this awareness, but we still want what we want, even if it's not in alignment, right? Like especially when we go through situations like this, right? If you can conquer your sexual discipline, this is some of the hardest shit that you'll ever do. And I can speak for men, like especially as men. What is harder? Right? This is arguably the most difficult task that you're going to undertake in your life, is controlling that dragon energy within you, controlling that phoenix energy within you, all right? So, yeah, it's going to be very difficult for you to say, all right, I want to live in this truth of wanting multiple women, but this woman, I want her, and she might not be in alignment with that. Do I lie? Do I pretend to be somebody I'm not or not? Right? Do I pretend to be somebody I'm not, or do I live in my ideal? And what you do from this point will tell you a lot about yourself. But this is not an easy thing. It's something that, it gets better over time. But when you have that urge and, this woman, you think she's into you and, You attracted to her, and now you have to be who you say you are. This is why we have to be superior as men. This is why we have to be cold as men. This is why we have to be so disciplined. Right? You have to be, and even, sexuality is different for men and women. Right? I think the only type of men that can truly understand the woman's sexual experience is like a male celebrity. Like a male, like a R&B, like a Chris Brown type guy or an Usher. They could probably understand the life of a beautiful woman with just men being so many men that at a point it's much more easy to filter them out and be like, no, yes, no, yes, no. But the average man experience, you take what you can get. You're not out here. You have a choice when it comes to, you marry who you want, but who you have sex with, or you have sex with them. Yeah, so you can get. Right? Most men have accepted sex far more times than they have refused it. We'll just put it like that. Right? Most women have rejected far more men than they have accepted. Most men have accepted far more women than they have rejected in their life. We just put it in that term right there. So as men, reprogramming your mind to step into this higher version of you can be very difficult at first, because it's like, look, how often do I find a woman that I'm extremely attracted to, that's extremely attracted to me, that I really like, and now I have to step into my truth, and what if she doesn't resonate with it? Right? So I commend, I'm not saying this is easy, but I am saying that it is worth it. It is worth it to step into this higher truth, because there's always another one. There's always a woman that's more in alignment. And the more that you entertain things and people that are not in alignment, you just delay the reception or getting to the people that are in alignment with you, man. But to say it's an easy journey, yeah, we ain't finna sit up here and lie. Right? The male sexual discipline, men understand. It takes a man to understand that journey. It's not an easy journey. And then the world is so sexualized, right? You're on a drought. A lot of men, they'll go on droughts not because they have to, right? Or not because they really want to. There are a lot of times where men just go on droughts with women because they have to. A lot of men are. I think there is an illusion on how accessible sex is to most men. Most men don't have a lot of sex. Most men can't have a lot of sex. If most men wanted to cheat, most men cannot cheat. When we talk about men that have the capacity to cheat, that are able to cheat, we're talking about a very select few, a very small percentage of men. And play the game, right? If you walk outside and you start looking at every man that you see, ladies, if you just started looking at every man that you see, what you will realize is that most men that you encounter on a day-to-day are invisible to you. Most of the men that you see and come across day to day are completely invisible. You don't give them a second thought. They don't exist. They can't cheat. They either don't have the charisma, they don't have the money, they don't have whatever the case may be. They don't have it to cheat. To be able to cheat, to be able to be a man that can get women, you have to be a certain type of man. And that percentage of men is small. Don't let social media fool you. Because the men that you see out in front of social media, this only represents a handful of men. A very small handful of men are like this, man. A very small. So, when we talk about this, if most men are not getting a lot of sex, and then you're telling them to be disciplined and be picky, it's hard. This is difficult to do. Like I said, most men have accepted many more women than they've ever rejected. Like, most men take what they can get, where on the other hand, most women have rejected a lot more men than they have accepted.
So we live in two completely different realms when it comes to sexual discipline. And this is why men value women that have sexual discipline so much. Because from a male perspective, we look at it from our view, but I think it's easier for men to look at the woman's view as well and say, well, shit, hey, the closest I'll ever get to some of these women is if I was just a super celebrity, right? And for me to have the discipline to turn down women, that says a whole lot. So when you meet women that you're attracted to, and you can tell that she exercises discernment, we respect that. If you've ever really paid attention to how men talk about women, pay attention to how men talk about wives versus women. Men, we show this reverence for a wife because when you think of a woman who is a wife, you automatically give her certain characteristics. They might all be accurate, right? But we look at wives with reverence because of wife is a beautiful thing, man. The amount of discipline and loyalty and patience, these are things that men damn near worship in women, right? It's hard to really put an explanation on it. Maybe that's a full lecture that I'll give. Maybe we'll do a lecture on the muse. Why men why men love sexual discipline in women so much. Because if I know that this woman has just walked through life and just been thrown all these men, right? Even as men, we understand that you don't want a woman that would just date anybody. You don't want a woman who would leave you and then just be with a fucking loser. You want a woman that, because I know who I am, right? I know that she's on my level and she would not accept anything less than me, right? Like, you want that divine goddess. He's like, you want that divine goddess who only would accept the superior man, who would only accept the divine masculine. You don't want a woman that's just out here entertaining whatever. Like, she's low discernment. She dates men that's not spiritually in tone. She dates men that are undisciplined. She dates men that are, always out. Like, you don't want a man or a woman that lacks, integrity and discipline. It's very unattractive. The same way that I guess women don't like a man that doesn't, right? But the experiences are just so different, right? This is why subconsciously you even like when your woman tests you. And naturally, women do test, right? Because they've had to test, because they've had to have strong men throughout history, right? But as men, you like when your woman tests you, and you like to pass her test because you understand, right? Especially the more conscious you are, you understand that she would do this to anybody. And this is her constant reminder that she is dealing with me, right? This is the constant reminder that she is dealing with this type of man. Right? And so she constantly better be on point because, you'd be hard pressed to find me anywhere else. Now, you can try, but I know you're finna come back like everybody else. And the moment that you put a tiptoe out that motherfucking door, just know the door's closed fucking forever. Right? But you want a woman who only deals with a certain type of man. Shit, with me, right? And I'm constantly on this upward trajectory. I'm constantly improving her life, right? So, where are you gonna go otherwise, right? I love this part of the convo too, man. Love this part of the convo too. All right, y'all got 5% battery. Any last questions? Then we'll end this with prayer. I gotta put that phone on the charger.
All right, cool. Let's end it with prayer, man. All right, my beautiful, beautiful people. Heavenly Father, thank you for every blessing. The blessings that we see, the blessings that are unseen. I'm grateful for every single one. We understand that everything that shows up in our life is meant to push us into a more divine, more godly, more aligned version of ourselves that is in tune with all the desires that we want. We know that you flow through us. We know that we cannot separate ourselves from you. And so all of our desires are your desires. All of our asking is your desire to grant. Continue to push us into our highest self and continue to remind us every second, every step of our journey that you are here with us. And also continue to remind us that the love and the validation and the approval that we seek outside of ourselves is always present within us, ready for us to tap into so we can take full control of our life, of our reality. All right, y'all. I see you all as beautiful, as divine, as perfect, as prosperous, as wealthy, as gods, as goddesses, right? If you do not feel that way, it's cool because I see you as that way anyway. So I know that it must be true. All right. Have a blessed evening. All right. Be safe this weekend. Okay. And, man, stay prosperous. Until next time, I appreciate you all. Later.